So we're back here at Replay Airsoft Arena. We've got Alex is joining me today, and we're working on a concept here. We're going to be doing a vlog thing. I don't know how often we're going to do it, and I'm not sure exactly how well this is going to work out in general, but we're trying.
Yeah,
we'll see how this goes.
We tried like half a year ago, and it just didn't come to fruition. So for now, it's just us two. Hopefully in the future, it'll be more guests, whether it's other people that work here, some of the regulars, just whoever.
Right. One thing I thought we would kick today off with was something that's been a common topic here is, and this is not to take one side or the other on this particular issue, but there's really two factions or two different groups in Airsoft. There might even be three, depending on how you look at it, but you have the Speedsofters and you have the Milsimmers. And I'm not saying that
starting with this.
Well, I'm not. This is a pretty topical thing.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying.
And it's one of those things like being a Republican or a Democrat. It just automatically polarizes people, and it really shouldn't. There's nothing wrong with playing Milsim. There's nothing wrong with playing Speedsoft. Either one is fine with me. And there's also like the third ones, which are the ones that don't really give a crap one way or the other, that just come out and play, and they're not really...
that's kind of where I see it, where there's people who are really into Speedsoft, people who are really into Milsim, but I think a majority of people are kind of somewhere in the middle where they just play.
But I'm just talking about the people that get something of their identity from being one or the other.
Right.
And I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong, but the thing that I've come to think lately regarding that is that they're not necessarily compatible, the two modes of play, because of the kind of tactics that they use out on the field, and also the kind of equipment that they play with make it so that one is not necessarily compatible with the other.
Yeah, I think that also kind of boils down to the venue almost in a way. When you're doing a walk-on game like here, for example, I mean, obviously we're not telling people okay, you have to show up wearing this uniform, you're part of this faction, we're not doing a Milsim thing, but at the same time, we're not saying, okay, you have to show up and you have to Speedsoft. I mean, you can show up and play however you want.
Right.
Obviously, if you go to a Milsim event, everyone's probably going to be using those tactics, using that equipment. And if you go to a Speedsoft tournament, obviously,
and that's
same
the thing.
thing.
If you go to a Milsim event, it's pretty much in the rules that you have to use specific equipment. Although at the same time, they still allow HPA stuff there. They still allow full auto. So I don't know. I don't have much experience with not HPA, but with Milsim events. You've gone to one, and I imagine there was people that were there that were using HPA equipment.
I've been to a Milsim-esque event. I have not gone to a full-on Milsim.
What you did? Lion Claw?
I did a Lion Claw. And Lion Claws is not, at least the one I was at, I can't say it was Milsim. It was very much like a giant walk-on game almost. Hell of a lot of fun. Amazing time. Yes, there were uniform restrictions. There were people divided, obviously, into teams, but then a little bit further down to squads. I played an event at Ballahack where we had platoons, teams, obviously, stuff like that.
That sounds very Milsim-y to me.
Yeah, but it wasn't the full-on Milsim experience. There were no blank fires. There were no very strict uniform requirements. It was still a relatively broad experience. That being said, I would say it was maybe slightly more simulatory than a standard walk-on game, and it definitely was not a Speedsoft venture of sorts. Going back to the main thing, though, with the compatibility, I would agree with that they're not compatible, but that being said, I think that also starts to boil down to what you want to get out of it. If you want a fully immersive tactical experience, you kind of need to play a Milsim event.
Right.
If you want a just, all out kind of quick and easy, well, not easy, but, just going out there, having a blast, almost like a paintball type venture, if you will, Speedsoft would be the way to go. Right. Most fields like yours, you can't limit to that. You can't just limit to one, like you said, faction. You got to open up to everybody.
Or we could have events that are specifically catering to that, but they would be special events that are not the regular,
once in a while,
open to the public kind of thing.
Exactly. Once in a while, you can cater to a group. That's fine. I know some local Speedsofters are doing a tournament here, or
We were supposed to actually be doing it today, but
Really?
So that got pushed back. So just on the side, if you're interested in participating in a tournament, this might be your opportunity to get in on that. We'll have some information. I'll just put it in the comments section.
So-
If you want to get in, you can get in.
But I guess that's sort of like what I mean is like you can do these like special events and like that's cool.
Yeah.
But like on a regular day, like it wouldn't make sense for you to say, okay, this Saturday only Milsimmers,
Right.
and then next Saturday only Speedsofters. Like that limits who can play, and that's
that
not
would be
fun.
stupid on our part
Yeah.
because we'd be cutting off half our crowd.
Exactly, but everybody plays airsoft for their own reasons. Some people play it because they love Speedsoft. Some people do it for Milsim. I think a majority of people do it because they just like airsoft. They like to shoot at each other with toy guns.
I think it comes up to what is your motivation for playing the sport. For me, as an average regular shooter, I like the idea, and to me, it's always sort of been the draw to airsoft guns is that they look and act somewhat like actual firearms.
Yeah. They certainly look the part.
They look the part that in most cases, or some cases, they operate in exactly the same part. So it's a means to an end where you're getting some sort of, muscle memory and tactile training with working with something that is a familiar thing to you, versus the Speedsoft guys where it's almost sort of a departure from reality. You're shooting guns that have a rate of fire that's immensely more than any normal gun could ever shoot. And you've got, magazines that hold thousands of rounds. And so, or hundreds of rounds, depending on what magazines you're using. So for me personally, I don't see much value in that, but that's just me. And that doesn't mean that it's wrong to play that way.
Right.
It just does not hold any kind of interest from me because I would just assume play a video game if I'm just doing fantasy stuff.
Well, even then, like you bring up something I was just about to say where you look at first-person shooters, there's so many different kinds. I mean, you can play Call of Duty, which is a little more whimsical, and you can get all these crazy gun camos, and you can run around and shoot each other with these sometimes fictitious firearms or tactics, at least. But it's good fun. Then, some people play like Arma, which is like a military simulator of sorts. I wouldn't say it's like utmost simulatory, but it's very, very much compared to Call of Duty, a simulator. So it just depends what you're into, really.
And once again, you're totally out of my realm of knowledge because I don't know one video game.
Well, my point is that with translating to airsoft, I mean, you couldn't have someone like you can have Milsimmers and Speedsofters play on the same day, but you're right. If you want a full-on Milsim experience, you can't, come here, for example, and just expect that every day. And vice versa. If you're a Speedsofter, you can't show up here and just expect that.
And I think I think one thing needs to be mentioned is there needs to be sort of a mutual respect between the different groups, even though we're doing slightly different things. Just because somebody's playing differently than the way you are does not necessarily mean that they're doing it wrong.
Right.
So I got to say, for the most part, people that come here, we don't have much problems. I hear more just sort of off-the-cuff grumbling every now and then.
Oh, there's always some drama. Some people are just divas, but for the most part, I mean, I say here at least, on a Saturday like today, there'll be a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but like there's a good portion of people who I guess would identify themselves as Speedsofters, and they're great. They're a great loyal group that comes like every week, and then vice versa. You have people that show up and they're wearing the, impression kits. They're wearing, everything is like if they're doing a historical kit, maybe it's period correct, to whatever extent.
But there's also with getting into one or the other, there are some limitations where if you want to be a Speedsofter and you have a fairly limited budget, it may not be the best choice for you because if you're getting into HPA tanks and regulators and fusion engines and all the stuff that goes with it, that's somewhat price prohibitive versus just playing airsoft with an electric gun or a gas blowback.
Just spring shotgun, Speedsoft spring shotgun.
So there are some limitations, and I think the Speedsoft guys need to be aware of that. If you're feeling somewhat superior to the other guys, not everybody has the budget you do, if you can afford that.
And that's more indicative of the person than it is,
yeah, and that doesn't come with automatically you put on a dye mask and you turn into a dickhead like that. But just be aware. Not everybody has $1,000 to throw into an airsoft gun.
And the same thing can be said for Milsimmers. I mean, there are guys that'll go out and buy, equipment that's better than what we give our own guys out in the field.
There's divas in Milsim that if you're not wearing Cry and
right, but I would say that they are more of a minority, if anything.
I'd say in both sides.
Right. Like I said, I've met people from both parties, and I would say a vast majority of them are just in it for the kicks. Like, they're in it for fun. So I do think that, like, if you're on one end of the spectrum, you're bound to have some sort of stigma toward the other end.
It shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be that way, but I do see that occasionally.
Yeah, I always feel it's somewhat ridiculous because we're all here doing the same thing essentially. Yeah. So don't start, getting...
Right. I think it's easy to form... I guess I should reword what I just said. It's easy to form a stigma if you fall into some of those trappings.
I think that's just human nature. Right. Just that tribe mentality that people want to feel like they belong to one group or another, and that's one thing that...
Well, going back to like the original, like what we started talking about, the compatibility of them.
Yes.
I guess I would have to agree to a large extent. I mean, we kind of just went against that a little bit by saying, hey, we have both groups show up here.
We sort of force the compatibility issue here, where we limit people's rate of fire. That's pretty much the defining factor with Milsim versus Speedsoft here is how fast can you fire your gun. Both guys can go in there with high-capacity magazines. What you're wearing is going to have pretty much zero effect on how you're playing. So the only thing that we want here is for everybody to be on a level playing field. So if you have a high rate of fire, you have a binary trigger, you have a dual sector gear, whatever you've got hopped up on your system to make it fire faster, it's not going to give you any kind of advantage in this situation.
Right.
So we enforce sort of a compatibility. And that's one thing that you have to understand if you come in here and...
Well, really, any walk-on field, I would say. I mean, I would imagine most fields are going to have some sort of stipulation like that.
But yeah, just in a business sense, I want to make sure that everybody is able to get along, have a good time. With this business, it's important to grow the business. And I think everybody has an interest in that, whether you're a Speedsoft or a Milsim.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If we can bring more people into the sport, then they can decide which direction they're going to go with it. And then you'll have more players to play with.
Yeah.
So we don't want to get, I know everybody sort of has this stipulation on noobs coming in. It's like, oh crap, a bunch of guys that don't know what they're doing. Well, you were a noob one day,
right? Well, not only that, but now I will, to kind of piggyback off of that, I will say it is somewhat infuriating when you have, let's say, a group of new players that have never been here before, and the referee puts you on their team, so it's you and 5 new players versus 6 players who have at least played airsoft before or have been here.
Well, the ref shouldn't do that.
It usually doesn't happen that way, but a lot of groups like to stick together, which makes sense. And unfortunately, when that happens, it usually doesn't end too well.
Well, it'll usually go around, and then they're realizing they're getting their butts kicked.
Right, and then they'll rebalance. So I guess my point is, outside of that, it's good to have new players. It's just I can understand where there may be a time, it's infuriating to have so many new players. Or I think the more infuriating part is when you have, whether it's new or old player, someone who's just not following the rules or doesn't understand the rules. And not just cheating, I mean like the safety aspect, just the things to keep it sportsmanlike.
Right.
I guess by proxy, more new players are bound to break those rules because they're just not used to them.
But we've had veterans that
exactly
break bad on us.
Absolutely, I'm not trying to say all new players are like that, but I guess if you were to look at it statistically, of course I don't know the statistic. Right. We haven't measured that, but I would guess that if I had to bet, it's more likely to be a new player to, accidentally walk in the staging area with a loaded gun, or take their mask off out there.
That's just sort of something that comes with the territory that we'll always have to deal with. But
right.
That's why we have referees. And if you're a player and you're put on a team and you feel like you're getting way outmatched by the other team, generally speaking, I expect that my referees are going to step in and start moving the more experienced players around so that the teams are evenly balanced. If you feel that that's not happening, then you need to tell the ref, and if the ref's not acting, you tell me, and I'll deal with it. So if
Right.
there's something going on, I hate to see somebody leave that's not having a good experience here. And if you're not, let us know, and we have no problem with
Right.
fixing the
Well,
problem.
again, just to kind of sum up what I was getting to was, I can understand why some people, when they see a whole group of new players, or hoodie warriors as they're called, they may, again, just like how a Milsim may look at a Speedsofter and vice versa, there's a stigma. I think it's somewhat easy to formulate that stigma with, a big group of noobs or what have you, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's what keeps the sport going, or the hobby going, rather, and I don't know. Like, I'm fine with it.
I'm just afraid of the day. I mean, to me, a good day is when the rental wall is empty and we've got a bunch of new people out there, because I know that the sport is still growing. The days that it's the same people, all the time, which we generally don't see. I'd say on a average basis, I'd say a third of the people that are here any given day are brand new to the sport, which is great.
Oh. All right, you can keep talking. I'm going to go switch the cameras.
Okay. Well, I'll just wait and you can cut in.
All right, cool. We're back.
So, I think one of the things that has brought a lot of people from paintball to airsoft is the fact that, or at least I hear stories from people that have been playing paintball, is that the speedball guys with their HPA stuff, if you're showing up with an old, CO2 Tippmann 98, you're just completely outgunned by the guys that have the nicer guns that are out there, and they're equally as expensive as the HPA guns in airsoft. And I don't want to see that happen to what we're doing here, where people are.
Well, I feel like now we're starting to talk about HPA as opposed to,
Well, I'm talking about Speedsoft versus.
Yeah,
Milsim.
I mean, like,
I just want to make sure that we're always able to handle both, and I think part of it's incumbent on me to come up with some way that I can appeal to both groups.
Right.
I think what we're leaning towards is going to be having a Speedsoft day.
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna let them take the chains off, and if they want to go, rapid fire in there and blow each other's teeth out, it's up to them. It would be a nightmare for me, but I mean that's the kind of games that they want to play, where they're just laying down, sheets of fire on the other guys. If that's what you're into, then we'll cater to that.
Well, with the tournament that at least they want to schedule here. Hey, phone call, groovy.
Hold that thought. Maybe this will just take a second.
2 hours later.
So what I'm thinking is we're going to come up with a Speedsoft night.
I think that's a good idea.
I don't think we're going to have a huge number of people. We could. I don't know. I mean, but we're going to start off simple. We'll do like a Tuesday night, and if you want to get in, we'll set something up. Just keep your eyes peeled. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We'll make a special announcement when exactly that's going to be. I imagine it'll be before the summer. So if you're interested, this is one thing that helps me out as a business. If you're a Speedsofter and you're interested in participating in a Speedsoft only night, this is not going to be like a special event. This is going to be a regular feature here.
And it
Speedsoft night.
I assume you're going to offer a special selection of rules, certain game modes. Yeah,
there's going to be Speedsoft design games. We also, one thing that we have to sort of cater more to the Speedsofters is we do have HPA Air here available. So for $5 you can come down and fill your tank all night. Our tank is limited to 3,000 PSI, so you can't fill a 4,500 PSI tank all the way up. But what you can do is just, you start running low, you just refill it, so you don't have to really worry about it. And most guys are running those smaller tanks anyway, so you probably are going to need to refill once or twice, even if you were getting full tank refills. So I'm trying to gear up so that we can handle both. I think the Milsimmers are a little bit of an easier group to fit in because the way that they play and the way that the noobs play is pretty much the same, where I think the Speedsoft guys, we got to kind of cater something to them so that it's not, because like I said, it's just not 100% compatible with the way everybody else is doing it.
Two things to go off of that. One, it's funny to me, like we were talking about stigmas, and we've been saying HPA and associating that with Speedsoft a lot,
Right.
and I think it's important to
Well, there's a lot of
realize
Milsim
that
guys that run
yeah, like
HPA.
HPA is very much. I think it's becoming more of a universal thing in general. It's not just one side or the other
Yeah.
that uses it. Though I understand your point that with a lot of Speedsoft, it's about a high rate of fire and having that ability.
I would say the vast majority of people that play Speedsoft use
having
HPA.
whether it's HPA like a Polar Star or HPA as in a gas blowback that's now running
Gas
tapped,
tapped, yeah.
tapped mags. Either way, it's good that we can accommodate that. I think having a night for that is also excellent to have people that want to play a like-minded game. They don't have to worry about showing up with Again, not that there's anything wrong with playing another way, but they can just play Speedsoft, and I think that's great. Does beg the question, though, would you offer a Milsim type night?
I'm not sure how we, in a CQB environment like this.
Yeah, I more or less just wanted to get your opinion on that.
I have nothing against the idea. I would just need somebody
Right.
to, draw something up exactly how we would, do like a Milsim event here. It's not impossible. It's just
Right.
somebody would just have to put some serious time into scripting exactly how the whole thing would go down. And I'm definitely interested in it. I think Milsim more lends itself towards outside.
Oh, yeah,
outdoor
I
events.
can see that for sure.
But like I said, if you, once again, if you, as a viewer, if you've got some sort of thing in mind, I'm game. I'll try it, or at least I'll look at it. I'm not going to just jump into anything that somebody
Right.
throws at me, but I'll certainly take a good look at it.
Right. Yeah, so I think it's good that we can hopefully accommodate, everybody.
Oh, I'm
in
all
some
about
way, shape, or
accommodating
form,
everybody.
you know?
Like I said in the beginning, I have nothing against either way
Oh,
of
no,
playing.
yeah.
I've got people that I'm, fairly, friendly with that play both ways, and I have nothing against either, and I think both are great.
There are people that play here that, they'll come here and they'll play more on the side of Speedsoft, and then they'll go field and they'll play more on the side of Milsim or what have you. And
that's all great.
It's fun to do both. Like, I've done both, and I've thoroughly enjoyed both. So, yeah, hey.
So that's pretty much a good place to wrap this one up.
Yeah, so at end of the day, just play.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're adults or children, I guess. We're people playing with toy guns, just have fun with it.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Alrighty. So that's the first take. Hopefully more to come.
Awesome. All right.